Welcome in to the PFF NFL betting show. On the desk with me, Ben Linsey. Joining us remotely, Judah Fortgang. Boys, we're already off to an interesting start to the week. Thursday night football was quite it was quite something if you were on the side of some Patriots lines there. If you had maybe some Travion Henderson multi-touchdown day there. Pretty profitable game for some people out there. Ben, when you saw this game, we had the Patriots win 27 to the Jets 14. I was actually on the underside of the Jets team total here for this one at 14.5. So that one was a nice little hit for me. What was some of the takeaways that you took from this Thursday night game to start off the week?
Yeah, the first takeaway is that I'm disappointed in myself. I sat here last week and it was like, Judah, stop betting Justin Fields. And then I saw his line at 129.5 yards, and I bet Justin Fields last night, which was not an enjoyable experience. But yeah, the Patriots are good. Like Drake May, I'm bought in to him being an elite quarterback with the way he's playing right now. Yes, it's not a good Jets defense, but he looked in control that entire game. The defense is playing pretty well. So it was kind of an up and down night for me betting. John Mechie touchdown at 19-1 did come through. Also, the FanDuel touchdown jackpot, he scored the last touchdown, so I'm patiently waiting to see what the bonus bet is there. But yeah, I think the main takeaway is Jets are rough offensively. Like, it's not a real offense, and the Patriots look like one of the best teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that line too. I knew it was probably going to be low, but that was one of the lowest passing yardage lines I've ever seen for a quarterback. Fields obviously ends with 116 yards, 4.5 yards per attempt. Judah, what were your big takeaways from this one? Are you buying into this Pats team, Drake May, what they could potentially do? Or was this one a little bit too close between teams that really shouldn't have been as close? It was a 13-point spread. It ends by 13, but what'd you make of this one?
Yeah, I don't know if it was such a close game, and to be honest, I don't think we learned really anything new. Like, we knew the Jets' offense was bad. The successful Jets' offense has been the first game against the Steelers, where they were running Justin Fields a bunch. It was also the first drive of the game where they were running Justin Fields a bunch, and even to some extent the first drive of the second half where they were running Fields a bunch. But I don't think we learned anything new. We know Drake May's been playing this way all season. The Jets' defense can't cover. Certainly not. And this is just a terrible defense, especially losing trading two of their best players. I don't think we learned that much new. The Patriots were in control virtually the entire time. They are a legit team.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I did find a little bit interesting is this, John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell usage. Those are going to be interesting because they, at times they definitely can separate and they look pretty good. And we've seen them, have some success when highlighted on other spots and on other teams. And,
A.D. Mitchell, sorry to interrupt. A.D. Mitchell is like one of the best separators in the NFL. That was certainly not the problem.
The problem was that he forgot he had hands three times in that game.
Correct. Yeah. It's like he made Christian Gonzalez look awful on that. Whatever drop, it's a tough catch. It's not a great throw from Fields on the future like that. He is a legit NFL separator. I would love to see what he can do. It's just such a limited offense because Fields, there were a bunch of plays where Mitchell got separation and Fields was throwing completely inaccurate passes. It's just hard to see and get a real sense. But Mitchell also didn't do Fields any favors.
Yeah, definitely. 6 targets, 1 reception, 10 yards for A.D. Mitchell. John Mechie, 3 on 3 targets for 45 yards. And, like you said, Ben, that touchdown there. So it will be interesting once they figure out how to, maybe throw some of these guys the ball. And if A.D. Mitchell can remember, where his mitts are, that might be a good one there. But, of course, grades are live for this game over on PFF.com. So make sure you guys head over there, get yourself your PFF Plus subscription. You can use promo code PFF NFL Show 25 to get 25% off on that right now. That gets you access to our PFF player prop tool, which we have some cool new stuff in store getting ready to be rolled out. And as well, it gets you access to the data trusted by all 32 NFL teams. And of course, just a reminder to the chat, make sure you guys get in your prop bets for the week. Tell us who you're targeting, and we're going to parlay them together at the end of the show. And all of the winnings for that parlay will go to a charity of our choosing. Boys, we have a pretty solid slate of games here today. We're going to jump right into it, and we're going to talk about some game market bets. And Judah, We're on a similar wavelength this week. I like where your head's at. Let's start right with you. Tell me what your game prop is, or excuse me, your game market bet of the week is, and tell me why you're targeting this one.
Yeah, it is the Dolphins and this line's moved back to 2.5. And yes, I think we are on similar angles, but I kind of have a little more bullish on parts of this. The kind of Miami offense having success against Washington case, I think is a lot more selling Washington, who will be without Daron Payne in this one as well. This has been a defense that has been abysmal the entire season, and then the more recent you get, the worse it looks. You can cite off basically any statistic, whether it's yards per drop, pack yards per attempt, disruption rate, whatever EPA, they're going to be bottom 5 at best, and in most cases going to be the worst or second worst in the NFL. And teams are really kind of eviscerating them there. The Dolphins, of course, have found some sense of offensive rhythm. Jalen Waddle has been dominating for the last 6 weeks now. Devon Achane, of course, a threat to break a huge run at any point, and this is not a Washington run defense that's particularly good. That case, I think, is relatively clear. What I think is kind of holding most of the value here is actually the Dolphins defense, which started the season as one of the worst units in the NFL. And it was particularly surprising to me given the talent they had at pass rush. And yes, they traded Jalen Phillips, but Chop Robinson was off to a horrific start for the season. Zach Sealer had taken a huge step back. Bradley Chubb as well had, coming off an injury, but really did not find his footing. And this team was not generating any pressure. They were bottom in the league in virtually every metric. But if you kind of peel it back a little bit to the last month or so, or even last 5-6 weeks, and the numbers look a lot better. This is not a defense that's been performing at the early season level of like bottom 3, but it's really been average to better in every category. And it's not really a function, I think, of poor opponents. They faced plenty of quality offenses during this time, and they're middle of the pack in basically any metric. And in particular, their pressure numbers, their quick pressure rate is like 10th. Their disruption pressure rate is 12th over the last 5-6 weeks. And I think that they should be able to generate pressure. And this is a lot better of a defense than the first half of the season. And I think that's relatively sticky. And we'll kind of make up a lot of the difference here in the spread. Because of course, on paper, and obviously these games are not played on paper, and there's variance in any NFL game. This is a truly dreadful Washington defense, and Miami, I think, will be able to score.
Yeah, I'm on a similar side there. Ben, what do you see with this matchup? Anything?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same side as far as the Miami offense against the Washington defense. Specifically, like if you look at what one of the bigger issues is with this Washington defense, I think it's their linebackers covering in space. Like Bobby Wagner is well past his prime in that regard specifically. Like playing the run can still make some plays, but in that regard, he can get lost. Frankie Louvu is a downhill player who can get lost in space. And you look at the Dolphins offense and this Shanahan tree of offenses that Mike McDaniel comes from, and what do they do really well? They attack that weakness. And I think this is a Washington weakness that they can attack in that way. To Judah's point, Achane has been excellent this year. I was kind of surprised when I was just looking at rushing yard leaders, and Achane is right there in the top 5. No, he had the big game against Buffalo last week, but this is a spot on paper where the Miami offense should be able to have a lot of success. I'm a little hesitant just like with the spot off a big win against Buffalo, international game. Mariota hasn't been terrible. Like you can make an argument Mariota's played better than Jane Daniels has this year, whether that's injuries, whether that's whatever. But yeah, the Washington defense is terrible. Their offense is beat up. Their receiving core is beat up. Like this is a good matchup for the Dolphins on paper.
Yeah, that was sort of my angle when I was looking at this early in the week when I wrote about it as sort of our line to bet before the lines move early in the week. And I was taking the over at 46.5, and that was part of the angle on that, was that, Marcus Mariota had actually been better than what we'd seen from Jaden Daniels a lot of the times. And I think that part of that is that they like to get after the running game a little bit better when he's under there. And that's sort of where I have some problems with the Dolphins defense, just on their interior. They've really sort of struggled there. We haven't seen a lot from Kenneth Grant. He's been sort of in the bottom of the NFL in run defense grade. That's going to be one of those spots that I think that Washington tries to attack. As the number moved a little bit further to 47.5, I'm not quite as bullish on it potentially there. But what I do like is the game total here for the Dolphins. And Judah, it goes on everything that you've just said. This Washington defense has gone from very bad to worse. Bottom four, the last 5 games, they've allowed this total of 24.5 points, which Miami has, to every single team. And now those are some pretty high-end offenses, but I think that the Dolphins have pieces and some momentum behind them where they know how they want to attack teams. They really just have to execute. And of course, Tua, who's highly sensitive to pressure, I'm not sure that this Commanders pass rush is going to be there. And when we just talk about some of their metrics, EPA per play allowed, 31st, success rate allowed, 29th, yards per play, 31st, scoring drive percentage, 30th, 49% scoring drive percentage. Like, when teams are able to do that, like, it just really makes it hard to win football games. And so that's definitely to the side that you're saying here with Miami, -2.5. I really like that. And then when we talk about specifically with Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane, I mean, both of these guys rank in the top 10 at their positions. Jalen Waddle, 6th most catches of 15 or more yards. He has 19 this season. In Washington, obviously, allowing the highest explosive play rate in the NFL. And when we talk about that, like, this secondary for the Commanders has gotten worse and worse. We're seeing, Jonathan Jones on the outside with a 37 coverage grade. Like, that's a bad look, and it's going to get pretty bad if we find that matchup on Sunday and Tua's able to exploit it. And then when we talk about Devon Achane, like, he is the only running back in the NFL, he is the only running back he is behind in the NFL in yards after contact per attempt with a minimum of 40 carries is Jonathan Taylor. And we all know how well Jonathan Taylor's been. Jonathan Taylor's having people sing his praises for MVP. I'm not necessarily sure that that's going to be the case and what ends up happening. But when we talk about this Washington defense, they're 27th in yards after contact per attempt allowed. And, Judah, like you said, no Daron Payne. So I think that number is just going to go down from here. So I'm liking the over at 24.5 points on Miami's game total. And Spain's going to get, I think, some fireworks in this one. I think we're going to see some pretty explosive plays.
Do we want to, because my prop is Dolphins offense against Commanders defense.
Jump into it.
Want to jump to it? Greg Dulcich, over 24.5 receiving yards. And basically the thought here is exactly what I was saying with the linebackers in coverage. Like, that's a weak point for Washington. They've struggled defending tight ends this year, specifically giving up big plays to tight ends. They've allowed 9.8 yards per target to tight ends this season. That is 3rd highest in the NFL. And Dulcich has slowly been gaining a bigger role in this offense since Darren Waller got sidelined. You look week 8, he had a 28% snap share. That went to 36% in week 9. That jumped all the way to 60% last week against Buffalo. Right? And I think him getting a bigger role, them being thinner in the receiving core in general, right? There's not a ton in that offense behind Waddle and Achane. And this is a matchup where Dulcich can win. So I like that, especially at a number right there around 25 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see it. So I love the angle this week, guys. We've got a lot riding on this first game here. So we're going up big early or it's going down with the ship early. So we're gonna have some holes to plug and some money to chase there if it doesn't work out. But I've got good feeling on this one.
Bonus prop there. I think it's a good Deebo Samuel spot as well. Like, I've kind of been, there's 2 clear worst defenses in the NFL in yards after the catch allowed per reception. it's the Commanders, and it's the Bengals. Or it's the Dolphins have been pretty rough in that regard too. The Commanders have as well. But like Deebo Samuel in this spot, like I think it's a good Deebo game.
Like it. You know, and Ben, while we're here, let's jump into your game market bet for the week.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to go with a spread, but it's a first half spread. I like the overall spread here too, but I'm going to go Chiefs -2.5 first half against the Broncos. And part of this is we've all seen it. Every broadcast the Broncos have been on have talked about how slow they've started games, right, and how they've needed to turn it on in the fourth quarter to win. So that's part of the reason for picking the first half here. If you just look at first half offensive success rate this season, the Chiefs are at around 51%, which is second in the NFL. The Broncos are at around 40%, which is 29th in the NFL. So massive mismatch in how these offenses have been performing early in games. And you get the Andy Reid coming off bye angle. He is 22-4 coming off a bye week in his career. This is a game that the Chiefs need to win, basically, in my opinion. Right, they're 2.5 games behind the Broncos coming into the back half of the season. This is a game they need, and we talked about it last week coming off Thursday Night Football with Denver. Like I don't have faith in the way their offense is playing right now, especially against competent defenses. And I think we can qualify the Chiefs as a competent defense right now with the way that they're playing. The Kansas City offensive line also getting back to more full health here. They have Josh Simmons coming back from his absence at left tackle. I think that's big. Trey Smith came back the week before the bye. So they're more back to their starting unit, which is massive against the Broncos pass rush that we've seen their ability to destroy games. Right? And I don't think that's necessarily going to happen here against Kansas City. Patrick Surtain's still out. The Chiefs receiving core is a little bit back to full health. Xavier Worthy got added to the injury report on Thursday, limited practice, so I guess his status is up in the air. But with the combination of Chiefs coming off a bye, Chiefs getting healthier on offense, Denver being down Surtain, Andy Reid being excellent off the bye in his career, and me just not having faith in this Denver offense, especially early in games, I like getting that spread at under a field goal in the first half.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Pat Surtain. That's obviously a big hit for a defense that, really relies on him to help anchor that secondary. But I think another really big one is no J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins still out after the hip drop tackle. I believe it was last week. And, he's been pretty much when they've needed that play and they've needed more production, it's had to come from him. 80.8 PFF rushing grade. And when we see what we've seen from Bo Nix, it's really difficult to say he's going to be able to find his accuracy and get his feet under him in a game like this where, we know what they do over on the defensive side in Kansas City, and they really do get creative. They throw some blitzes. I think he might be in knots a little bit in this one. So that's definitely going to be a tough look, which leans more towards sort of what you're saying there with that first half, that slow start. Now, frankly, I know Judah was on this game at, what was it, Judah, 3 for early in the week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's moved since, but I still, for all the reasons kind of been outlined, I think this is a great spot. And you can buy into the narrative also of Andy Reid off the bye, which I think there's some element to. But the Broncos offense is bad right now. That's just the reality, I think. And the Chiefs offense, I think, is at its best point since 2022 probably. Kind of all healthy, especially if Simmons is back. I love this spot for the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And we as much as it is a narrative thing, giving Andy Reid extra time to prepare has never been good for the other side. And when we just talk about more of the narrative type, analysis on this game, and I know we don't want to ever put too much stock into the narrative, but this is a Chiefs team who has been cooking, who is playing really, really well. Judah, like you said, some of their best offensive football we've seen in years, and we know how the defense has played for quite a while now, and they're battling. They're battling for this playoff spot. They're battling for playoff position. I know that in that locker room, they're probably not discounting their chances of trying to climb the ladder there and take the number one seed again and take the division, as much as it, pains me to say. But it is, the Broncos are in for a really, really tough spot, even at home here.
When you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, I think it kind of breaks a lot of the common narrative pieces, or I should say, like, I tend to not, right? Like, as a data person, I tend to not like narratives, and like really try and stick to the data. This is not a game where Patrick Mahomes, I don't think, loses, right? We just haven't seen this. It would really be a kind of prior change in that regard. And if you just look at his career, kind of micro and macro level, like, he plays as well as his defense effectively. And like, there's a reason that he's so good late in games in the fourth quarter. I don't think that's a coincidence. And in that sense, like, he is an outlier and we should treat him as such. I think like that's kind of the point with the Chiefs here, and why the narrative of, it's a game they have to win actually matters more for a quarterback like Mahomes, given the past data we have and just how much he is an outlier in exactly these types of scenarios.
Yeah, 100%. And, Mahomes, all these weapons, you give him all these weapons, he's just a kid in a candy store. He can really make defenses pay, even really good defenses like what the Broncos have. So definitely agree with you guys on that one. And Judah, while we're here, let's just hop into your game market bet, because we have another really strong prop bet, because we have another really strong quarterback. And of course, a reminder to the chat, make sure you guys throw in your prop bets of the week, and we will parlay those together for our prop culture segment at the end of the show. Judah, tell us what prop you're targeting this week.
Yeah, it's going to be Josh Allen over 221 passing yards. I think that Allen has some really dispersed outcomes in the sense of, like, he'll have plenty of games with 300 yards, very wide range of outcomes. 300 yards, he'll have plenty of games with kind of 150, and the median locks in somewhere in between. But those games where he has 150 passing yards are very often the spots where the Bills can just run all over teams and dominate them from start to finish. And I don't think that is this matchup with Tampa Bay. To begin with, teams have, for years under Todd Bowles, and this year's no exception, they pass a lot against the Bucks. Their teams are passing 2% above expected against them. That's a top 5 mark in the league. And this has been a defense which has benefited a lot from turnovers, if you want to look at, production metrics like EPA, but it's actually been kind of struggling on the defensive side of the ball. They're allowing the 9th highest yards per attempt, the 10th highest dropback success rate, kind of metrics that discount turnovers a bit more. It's not been a terrific defense. No one needs me to tell them how good Josh Allen is as a quarterback and his ability to move the ball down the field. I think it's kind of mostly a question of volume, and I think volume is going to be on their side, certainly with Tampa Bay's ability to move the ball on offense on the other side, which I think is the biggest risk. And the Bills, when they're up 2-3 scores, are going to pull Josh Allen in the fourth quarter. They're also just going to run the ball, and I think there's a very unlikely event of that happening. So when you take it kind of high level, if you're creating a median based on a really wide range of outcomes, and we say, where do we think this slides in relative to that, I think it's a little bit closer to the Allen passing side given the matchup.
So, Judah, I have a great question for you, and I think a lot of the listeners and everybody who watches our show here would really like your input from a database analysis standpoint. When we see games like this one with Buffalo, they're expecting, quite a bit of wind in Buffalo this week. I know some snow was in the forecast. It looks like that's been pulled back a little bit, but it's still looking like we're getting some gusty winds. I know a guy like Josh Allen, he's got a strong arm. He can probably throw through a lot of that wind. Is there any sort of angle? Do you sort of draw back a little bit? Because even still, I think that this is still a great spot for Josh Allen. And I was right there with you. It was going to be one of my bets of the week. I got a little pulled off by the wind, but what do you sort of take when you approach that? Do you sort of draw back your expectations, or do you still let the data do the speaking?
Well, I mean, the data doesn't have so much to say, and you take an input. There aren't too many games with however high the wind count is, but there are a lot of interesting competing factors here, which is number one. right? How do you balance exactly what you said, the kind of full data with what we have on a player? That matters. And then you want to add another input in here, which is like the weather. And certain quarterbacks are going to kind of react differently to the weather. I mean, if someone wants to remember like a narrative case of this, there was a crazy, I don't remember if it was Thursday night or Monday Night Football game between the Bills and Patriots with like 50-mile-per-hour winds, which was obviously an extreme case. And neither team passed in the first half. And the Bills were like, oh, we're just going to let Josh Allen pass. And his arm he has such a strong arm that it actually didn't affect him as much as it did other quarterbacks. Either way, the wind is going to affect the quarterback. You want to kind of, what I use is the general sample here, and the production really only starts to fall off at like sustained 20-mile-per-hour winds. And that in conjunction with rain is particularly important. This is just over the full sample. I'm not as concerned because I think, look, these weather forecasts change constantly. And you also like looking at Buffalo's weather is not really as indicative of the wind in the stadium because they're like constant I don't even know the word for that. The meteoric effects, particular to stadiums. But I think if we start to get to 30-mile-per-hour winds, 25-mile-per-hour winds sustained, that would take me off this. The last projection I saw was like 15 sustained with maybe some gusts. And I think that's like just on the range where it's not as meaningful, and certainly less so for a quarterback like Josh Allen, who throws with such velocity that it mitigates the effect slightly.
Yeah, I like that. I like your breakdown of that. And when we look at sort of the effect that it's had on the market, it leaves us with opportunities like this one where you can take the over. If we look at the passing yardage lines for both of these quarterbacks, Josh Allen, over 220.5 yards. We have Baker Mayfield, 214.5 yards. And if some of the things that we've talked about, especially as it pertains to the Bucs being a pass funnel defense, this is an opportunity where you say, we know what Josh Allen can do, especially as we've talked about, big arm, he's able to throw through the wind. And, another one of the angles that I sort of like with this game here is that Khalil Shakur, you can get at, I think it was 48.5 receiving yards, and he's been electric after the catch. And what we've seen with Tampa is that they've actually struggled at times to, prevent that extra yardage after the catch. And I think that this could be a spot where we see quite a bit from him. And I'm interested in sort of your take, Judah, on where you think that they might attack. No Dalton Kincaid. Do you think that might be the spot that they go, or do you think they lean in a different direction?
No, I think that is a lot of the kind of offense. And Tampa Bay also blitzes a lot, which kind of leads to your point of after the catch. If your defenders are kind of across the line of scrimmage, then being able to kind of hit a quick read and beat your defender allows for that sort of explosive play angle. But yeah, the Bills are also a team that spread the ball around. I think Shakir is obviously the most dynamic of their weapons, but they're going to involve any sort of receiver. This is probably the least likely spot for Keon Coleman, who runs a lot of these vertical downfield routes, which are the routes that would be most affected by wind. Again, I think we need to get like an actual final forecast because the difference between 15 and 30 is massive here. But certainly in the latter half of this, like Keon Coleman is not the receiver I'd want to be betting on. It would be a guy like Shakir.
I don't know if there is a Keon Coleman spot.
But
I don't know if there is a Keon Coleman spot given how this year is going.
Maybe it's just the fourth quarter against the Ravens in week one.
Yeah, so from what I'm seeing, and obviously there's still some time, it does look like it's saying sustained winds about 15 to 25 and higher gusts possible. So it will be something worth seeing. Do you see anything else in this matchup, Ben?
I think you guys hit most of it. Like Judah's points make a lot of sense. This is a Bucs defense that I'm typically looking for passing against, not rushing. Even if you look at the teams who have had some success running against Tampa Bay, like last week with Travion Henderson, he had 2 carries for 120 yards, and then his other 12 went for like 20. It's kind of the same thing with Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, it's these big, explosive runs that have been the only way that teams have gotten anything on Tampa Bay this year. So, like, yes, maybe if James Cook breaks off a few of those, then you see Josh Allen's output go down a little bit. But I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to score on this Buffalo defense. And this is, again, an important game for Buffalo where you're trying to stay in that AFC East race, and the Patriots just keep winning. So I like them putting it on Allen's arm, and I think this is a matchup where you can have success.
Yep, I like it too. All right. And we've already talked, Ben, about your player prop bet of the week. That's Greg Dulcich over 24.5 receiving yards for anybody joining us late. So we will jump into my player prop of the week. And I know this one's a big number, and I'm taking an over on it, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it at all, boys. We're going Trey McBride over 7.5 receptions. And I think, obviously, the big thing here is Jacoby Brissett's been one of the best things to ever happen to Trey McBride. He has been so much more efficient and so much more effective getting peppered with targets with Jacoby Brissett back there. When Jacoby's throwing the football, his first read, doesn't matter what the play is, he's trying to look for Trey McBride. And since week 6, when Brissett became the starter, we've seen 8+ receptions in 3 of McBride's 4 games this season. He's targeted on 26.7% of his routes. That's the highest on the team. And his 32 receptions, Ben, his 32 receptions are higher than Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson combined, and they're the next 2 highest reception getters for this offense, and they have 28 combined. And now when we talk about this offense, no Zay Jones, who unfortunately popped his Achilles last week. That's one of the injuries that I just hate to see happen because it
was a crazy one too. He's just like walking.
He's walking back and just he looks back like that's what we always hear is that people feel like something like bit me, like something bit my ankle, and then he's on the ground after that, and that was just a wrap for that. And he's been very explosive for them, so that's a pretty big blow. And then we talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., who unexpectedly is out, had appendicitis. So that's roughly vacating about 10 targets per game on average between these two guys. And when we talk about a guy who's already getting a very large target share, for the concentration to be narrowed like that, I think is only going to do good things for a guy like Trey McBride. And when we just talk about this San Francisco defense, Judah, this has been something that we've talked about. The Niners defense they have not been great. And then no Fred Warner. Teams have really picked on them over the middle in coverage, particularly with tight ends. They're the 3rd highest team in tight end target rate in the NFL. And that number's only gone up since Fred Warner's been out. That's sitting at about 24.2% right now. And then we saw the Rams last week. They attacked this defense with 4 different tight ends. They threw 42% of their targets to tight ends. I think they had like 14, which is just insane. And so, I really like this spot there. I think you could even tag on the anytime touchdown at -115. Not really great for an anytime touchdown, obviously, but we've seen what they do with him in the red zone. Jacoby's really been targeting him a lot there. That moves this up to about +215. And when we talk about San Francisco, they've allowed 3 in just the last 2 games. That doubled their season total. And McBride scored every single game with Brissett. He's got 5 in the last 4 games. So this is a spot that I'm really thinking that they can exploit this defense with Trey McBride and really see where that takes them. I like the Cardinals more in this game than I think the market does, given how they're, home dogs. But I'm interested to see what you boys think of this matchup between the Cardinals, the 49ers, and just maybe Trey McBride in general. Ben, what do you see in this one?
I also like Arizona, and I've kind of been betting against the 49ers defense. Basically, like if you look at since week 4 when Nick Bosa went down, this is a bottom 5 defense in the NFL. They didn't come close to stopping the Rams last week, and obviously the Rams have a very good offense. And then on the flip side, Seattle gave Arizona a lot of problems. But McBride had a monster game, right, playing from behind in that game. Still, this is a great matchup against San Francisco. And I honestly, if we're just looking at the game overall, I think Brock Purdy might be a downgrade just based off what we've seen from Mac Jones. I'm not saying necessarily Purdy's a worse quarterback, but coming off an extended absence with Mac Jones playing well in this offense the last couple of weeks, like there's some rust there. So, yeah, I think it's a good spot for Arizona. I think it's a good spot for McBride. kind of in a similar angle, I really like Greg Dortch props this week, as the defense has really struggled against the slot. He can work the middle of the field, should have an expanded role with Marvin Harrison and Zay Jones out. Obviously, they're probably going to run a lot of multi-tight end stuff, get Elijah Higgins involved too. But I think there's some upside for Dortch, whose line is around 29, 30 yards right now.
Yeah, pretty low on the catch too. I think it was like 1.5. So definitely a spot you could target. Judah, what are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, bold. I think Brock Purdy's a meaningfully better quarterback than Mac Jones. That's ultimately where a lot of this comes down to, and the market kind of did not. The market does not agree with me. It seems, given that the line has not really moved, and I don't think it was kind of priced in that Jones was going to be replaced by Purdy. My concerns here for Arizona, which I think kind of get to your point, Mason, is that like they really don't have much depth outside of McBride, and like with Zay Jones out, with Marvin Harrison out, like it is really, really, really weak, and I don't think they've been able to run the ball at all effectively. And yes, this is an awful Niners defense, but I also see this as a spot where there are plenty of potential obvious passing situations, and I don't think Jacoby Brissett is the person to win there. Certainly not without kind of the X receiver. I anticipate that Niners are going to shade a lot of their coverage to take away McBride because there is really no one else. It's obviously easier said than done, and certainly for a guy who is in the slot and can kind of move around, especially as an inline tight end. There are lots of different ways to try and get one-on-one matchups, but that's obviously the cat and mouse game of the NFL. But ultimately, for me, like, this is just not a great Cardinals offense. They're banged up. I think that San Francisco is getting an upgrade at quarterback. Should be able to move the ball pretty well. I would take the Niners if I had to choose a side. But you know, if certainly if the Niners are up, like McBride's going to get a ton of volume. Like Jacoby Brissett attempted 44 passes last week. If that happens again, McBride's very likely to get 8 catches.
He's been throwing the ball a lot. You could tell that they've not had a lot of trust in the running game. And you know, I was just checking on it. I couldn't see. Did we get some update on Benson?
I haven't seen anything.
We'll have to check on that while we go here, because I think that would definitely be, you know, an upgrade for them, obviously, in the running game. But that'll be something that we do have to check on as we go further into this thing. And, you know, this is going to be an interesting matchup. I really can't wait to see it go down. And, you know, I err a little bit differently. I think that I'm a little bit on your thinking there, that I'm not too high on what we've seen from Brock Purdy. Maybe that's partially due to sort of, you know, it's been difficult for him with the injury and sort of with the weapons going down all around him. But we did see a lot from Mac Jones during his time as a starter there. But this will be an interesting one. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan did not feel like this was even close, just as you said, Judah, that he's pretty adamant that this is going to be an upgrade for them to get Brock Purdy back. So this will be an interesting matchup, to say the least. And we have some really good same-game parlays. But before we head into our same-game parlays, boys, we have to talk about Fabric by Gerber Life. As a parent, we do everything we can to set our kids up for success in the future. Academics, team sports, college admissions. But what about getting started financially when they're out on their own? Fabric makes it easy for you to set up an investment account for your child now that grows with them and helps prepare for their financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. While your kids can't invest while they're minors, a UGMA kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf now and gives their investments more time to grow. Funds can be used for nearly anything benefiting your child, from tuition and books to summer camp and after-school activities. And when they're adults, They can use the funds for their first home, a new car, or even to start a business. You can share your child's unique gifting link with family and friends. So instead of them gifting things they'll outgrow for birthdays and special occasions, they can help grow your child's investments instead. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. Portfolios managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors, Inc. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. Boys, this is our moneymaker. I know Judah's itching for this one. Judah's got some good ones on tap. Ben, I know you got a banger on tap. Let's just jump right into it. Ben, give me your same game parlay that you're targeting this week. What are you liking?
Yeah, we're going to the squeaky wheel here with A.J. Brown and the Eagles passing offense. I know I might have stolen this one from Judah. He was messaging me before the show. But I like Jalen Hurts, 290-plus passing yards. A.J. Brown, 120-plus receiving yards and a touchdown. Eagles, -2.5. I got that at 55-1. I checked this morning. It was 50-1. And this is really just kind of a matchup angle against this Lions defense. We've talked about on numerous occasions on the show. The Eagles' passing offense is at its best when they get man coverage defenses where they can attack downfield. And this is a Lions defense where that's what they're going to get, right? The Lions play 40% man coverage on pass plays. That's second highest in the NFL. If you look at against man coverage just this season, Jalen Hurts is at 9.1 yards per attempt. A.J. Brown is at almost 4 yards per out run. That's third in the NFL for Hurts, second in the NFL for A.J. Brown. And last week, I was on the Packers because I thought the Packers could take those downfield shots away, and they did for the most part outside of the Devontae Smith touchdown late. This is a matchup where I think the Eagles are going to be able to take some of those shots. And after a quiet game last week against the Packers, and honestly a quiet season outside of a few spots for A.J. Brown, like this is a game where they can get him the ball and he can have some success. And then the spread part of this with the Eagles -2.5. Full disclosure, I have had very little success betting Eagles spreads this year. It seems like whatever side I'm on is the wrong side. So disclaimer there. But I like the spot for Philadelphia. All right, getting less than a field goal against Detroit. And a lot of that is I don't know how much I trust this Lions offense against good defenses. Right? And I think we can say I've gained confidence that the Eagles are going to be a good defense over the second half of the season. Jalen Phillips was a big addition. We saw that last week against Green Bay. They've added some depth in the secondary. Like this Eagles defense improved over the course of last season. I think you're going to see something similar this year. And if you look at the Lions offense just in the games against top half of the NFL defenses, so top half of the league in EPA per play allowed, that's 5 games this year. Cleveland, Green Bay in week 1 when they lost, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, and Minnesota. They're at -0.08 EPA per play. They're at a 39.6% success rate. And the fact that Dan Campbell took over play calling is like, I don't feel great about it. Like whenever teams make play caller changes, it's generally not a very good sign. It's also kind of funny that they did it the week that they're playing the Commanders. And we opened the show talking about how bad that Commanders defense is. So good first outing, good soft landing for Dan Campbell in his first game as play caller. I don't think it's going to be as soft this week against Philadelphia. So I think if the Eagles win, it's probably going to have to be through the air. And this is a great matchup for how their passing offense wants to attack for Hurts and Brown specifically. And I think the Eagles can cover the spread in a game where like Detroit's going to be heavily bet. They have been heavily bet if you just look at the cash and the tickets. But I think this is a caliber of team that we've seen them struggle a little bit against this season, even in some games that they won, like that game against Tampa Bay where they just kind of suffocated the Tampa Bay offense and came out with a 24-9 win.
Come on, we gotta give Dan Campbell the credit. He knows he's a shooter. So just like any good shooter, you got to see one go in the bucket, and then you're going to be cruising. And that's what he did with, deciding to take play calling during the Commanders game, because any play you're going to call against the Commanders is going to look like genius. So
yeah, especially Jameson Williams crossers against those aforementioned linebackers.
It's a tough break there. Judah, what are you seeing in this big-time matchup on Sunday night?
As Ben alluded to, this is a spot I also really loved. The concern here is that the Eagles are basically afraid to let Jalen Hurts pass on third downs. They're like third and long play calls on Monday night. Were just a bunch of Will Shipley runs and some scrambles. So there's obviously that concern. But kind of the whole point here is in betting on an alt, it's conditional on the fact that they're having some success, then they're probably going to let Jalen Hurts actually drop back, and it's kind of the perfect matchup. This is like a Lions defense that has Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, and nobody else. And I think that Hutchinson should be kind of taken care of a bit by the cogs on the outside. Obviously, terrific tackles for the Eagles, and Lane Johnson was banged up last week, but these guys don't miss time. And yeah, it's a terrific matchup, and there's no one to cover AJ Brown. I think that to Ben's point also, the Lions up until last week even had a real stretch there where they were not playing terrific. The blitzes from the Minnesota defense really got to them. And again, you want to talk about narratives this, narratives that, Jared Goff in the cold at night, a very different quarterback than Jared Goff in a dome at home. And this is a really tough Eagles environment to go into. I think that kind of helps on the margins. Of course, that's not the main angle here. But I also like the Eagles.
And I think you bring up a good point too. And when we talk about Jared Goff, just even from a numbers standpoint, he's also sort of crumbles when pressured. He's very sensitive to pressure. And this Eagles defense, while they haven't been this super vaunted pass rush like we've seen in the past, they're starting to get that rotation back that's really, really helping them. Like you mentioned, Jalen Phillips coming back. Getting Nolan Smith back was huge for them. I mean, he played, I think 19. It looks like he's played 19 snaps, so under 20 snaps. Still recorded a sack. And you have Brandon Graham coming out of retirement, and he's not giving them a ton, but it's just still the bodies. They really like to rotate these guys, keep them fresh so they can get after the passer, and that might really help to unlock this defense for sure.
Yeah, big savvy play in that Packers game to stop the pop pass or jet sweep or whatever that was that they called out on the broadcast.
Yeah,
adding Jalen Phillips and Nolan Smith is doing wonders for a team that had no depth.
Yeah,
at edge, to your point. And it's going to, again, there's second order effects here. It's going to help Jalen Carter as well generate pressure on the interior. It's the best the Eagles pass rush, I think, has been all season, obviously. But it goes a long way. And we can kind of discount some of the early season numbers given the personnel that's currently available.
Yeah, and Lane Johnson upgraded to full participant on Thursday. I know he came back into that game, so looks like dude, he's going to be good.
Dude, just he plays. I don't understand it. These guys are insane. Carter off the field, back in the game, just nuts.
Yeah, and the Eagles, so adding the Eagles minus 2.5 to this basically doubles the odds. And it's I know I kind of talked about the Lions offense, and I think they might struggle a little bit. That being said, I think they have enough talent to push the Eagles enough that they can't just completely turtle in this game, right? So that's kind of, and you're getting the spread under a field goal, right? So you still get these scenarios where the game is tight all the way through and the Eagles win on a late field goal or something. So that's kind of the thought with pairing the spread with the Hurts passing there.
And I think, as Judah mentioned with second order effects, one of the interesting things that I've been sort of tracking or keeping an eye on is what this team plans to do with Cooper DeJean. And I think what we saw is I anticipated they were going to probably move him more outside. We didn't see that this past week. This I also don't think will be a matchup where he moves outside because, that effect of what Amon-Ra St. Brown can do out of the slot, I think, is going to play a big role in this one. But that will be an interesting piece to see if they sort of use him more matchup-based. And obviously, we've talked about some of their issues on the back end. particularly when it comes to safety. They haven't been great down the field. That could be an issue when we're talking about a guy like, Jamison Williams, who can really take the top off of defenses. But I find that it's going to be interesting with their pass rush improvements helping the back end, flourish and play better. So that'll definitely be an interesting highlight in this one that I'm going to be watching for sure. All right. Judah, you want to go first or should I?
I'll do it.
Do it. Jump in there, Judah. Tell me what your same game parlay is this week.
I got a bonus on yours. Yeah. Jordan Love, 300 passing yards, under 31.5 attempts. Christian Watson, 80 yards. I think it's really a question to kind of take it from Christian Watson, which is how does Christian Watson get to 80 yards? Well, it's very likely on a deep pass. He's got an outrageously high 25 A-dot. They love taking these shots downfield against man. The Giants play a ton of man. They don't have the corners to cover. Obviously, the target share is also a bit condensed, so there are some other ways of adding to that total. But it kind of plays perfectly into the script here, which is Packers are huge favorites. They have a lot of success throwing, especially early in the game via these deep throws, which they did not attempt much of against Philadelphia, but kind of over the course of the season has been a key addition. This is a Giants team that is making coverage mistakes at the third highest rate. Jordan Love has been the best quarterback in the NFL APA-wise. When a team makes a coverage mistake, I think it kind of mitigates some of the depth problems that the Packers are having, which is that they don't need those kind of secondary receivers to earn as much separation because they're going against such a bad secondary that's playing a lot of man. But yes, the kind of angle here is a very efficient Packers offense, and that likely flowing through Christian Watson. This is 60-1 on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, I love it too. I love that angle. We were talking. I angled Christian Watson last week. It took some ladders there, and honestly would have hit them if he hadn't sort of lost that ball and had it hit him in the back of the head. And I don't think he'll let that happen again. He's been very productive since he came back, and this is something that we talk about a lot of guys that can really take advantage of these man coverage teams. And it's a little bit odd because just when you look at sort of the microcosm of the NFL, you'd think that this defense would sort of adjust and, hey, we don't exactly have the bodies to continue to play such a high rate of man coverage. We don't have the dudes out there that can really match some of these receivers, whether it be speed, whether it be size. And that has really been an issue for them. I think their inability to adjust this defense is really sort of their biggest detriment. Now, they have these pieces. They can get after the passer, but, struggles running the football. I think that's partially due to playing quite a bit of man coverage and to really just not having sort of the guys in the middle of that defense. And then, on the back end, I mean, we don't have to continue to talk about it. They get beat up all the time. They get beat up by everybody on the back end of this defense. Ben, what are you seeing in that matchup there? I'm thinking we're also getting a little bit of wind in that one too, just because it's sort of in that same area. But I don't think it was nearly as bad as what we're supposed to be looking at in Buffalo. And again, we sort of determined the Buffalo game wasn't going to scare us off from some big passing totals. Ben, do you see anything in this game in particular either?
Yeah, it doesn't take much to convince me on a Jordan Love yards per attempt bet in a spot like this. And I was on a similar angle against the Giants last week with the Dunze. That came through. I think the biggest question is, there's just a lot of uncertainty in the health of this Packers receiving core right now. Christian Watson got added to the injury report on Thursday, limited participant, knee and hamstring injuries. Dontavian Wicks has been limited. Savion Williams has been limited. Matthew Golden's been limited. I don't know exactly who's going to play and who's not. But, if Watson is full go, we've seen him get ramped up to being one of their top targets. They attack downfield. This is a defense you can attack downfield against man coverage. So I like the spot here.
Love it. And we'll move on to my same game parlay of the week. And this one's a dirty one, you guys. I felt bad placing this one. I love it, but I hate it at the same time. We're going Chicago, Minnesota, and Jude, I know you have input on this one as well. I'm taking Chicago on the money line. We're taking DeAndre Swift, 100-plus rushing yards. J.J. McCarthy, 250 plus passing yards. And this one is 30-1. You could ramp that up. It sort of depends on how you're feeling about JJ McCarthy. I was tempted to go a little bit higher, but I became a little skittish just because of some of his track record. Now, while it's still a small sample, I think maybe taking a measured approach with McCarthy is sort of the angle for me on this one. And it's really just telling the story here that Chicago is going to find success on the ground. And McCarthy is hopefully going to be getting on the same page with his weapons versus a Bears coverage unit that has really, really struggled. I'm actually incredibly interested to hear sort of Judah's take. I know he's probably going to have some destroy rate numbers for a guy like JJ McCarthy who's been pretty atrocious in that regard. So that might not end up playing in my favor too much, but that is why we take a pretty low number here at plus 250. For me, the big thing is we talked last week, Chicago's improvements rest squarely on their ability to run the football. Since week 3, they're second in EPA per rush allowed. They're behind only the Colts, 6th in rushing success rate, and 1st in explosive run percentage. Minnesota, in that regard, is fairly low in their rushing success rate allowed. I think about 25th in the NFL. And a big reason why I think this is a tough matchup for them is the outside zone heavy scheme from Ben Johnson. They run the 3rd highest rate of outside zone in the NFL. They have been cooking on outside zone concepts, 470 yards, 2.2 yards before carry per attempt, and 16 explosive runs. All those rank in the top 3. And we talk about Minnesota against outside zone. That's really been where they've struggled. They've allowed they've allowed their 30th in yards allowed to outside zone at 406, 21st in yards before contact, 21st in explosive runs allowed. I'm targeting Swift in this one just because what we saw last week is he's still getting the majority of the carries there, roughly around about 60%. I was on Monangai last week. I'm still a believer in Monangai, and I might be tempted to sort of play into this line on both of them at maybe a little bit lower number for Monangai potentially. But with what we've seen sort of as the usage, DeAndre Swift still playing really well. I thought Monangai was going to get a lot of the workload just based on that injury with Swift, but that didn't end up playing out the way we had anticipated last week. But then when we talk about McCarthy, I mean, he hasn't been great, but this isn't a high number. And the hope here is really that he can tap into what we saw late in that week 1 game against Chicago, where he had a 90.3 passing grade. He went 6 of 8 for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. That won him player of the week back then. That seems like a lifetime ago that JJ McCarthy was, cooking it up and he was going to start pressing this team forward, and it did not end up that well. But really, with this Chicago coverage unit, they've struggled a lot. 30th in yards per attempt allowed, 24th in explosive play rate, 29th in passing success rate. I'm going to just throw this one to you, Judah, because I know you have a input on this one, and I know you're probably going to have some JJ McCarthy destroyed numbers. Tell me where I'm going wrong, or tell me what you're seeing in this one.
Yeah, I would take a different angle. We don't have props up yet. That's the only reason why it was not my SGP, but I love Luther Burden in this spot. There's a DJ Moore injury. We'll see how the markets kind of react with or without him. Obviously, that's going to change this bet a whole bunch, but he's been getting, on the rare times he sees the field, just an outrageous kind of blitz target and yards per out run, which Minnesota does at the highest rate in the NFL. And it's blitz 65% of the time since week 6, which is just a crazy number. To respond to your SGP, I don't hate the kind of macro thesis of the Bears running. I think it's a hot hand situation. And I don't have full faith that Swift is going to earn all the targets, all the carries, excuse me. I think Monangai is really earned his share, and it just makes it very difficult. Again, you can use that same argument, which is if Swift is having a ton of success, that's going to breed more carries. And the JJ McCarthy destroy numbers are he's got a 65% destroy rate. That's 8% higher than the next worst, which is Jacoby Brissett. Another reason why I'm on San Francisco here to kind of take advantage, or less able to take advantage of a good matchup. But yeah, I don't hate the macro thesis. I do like the Bears in this spot. I just on some of I have a hard time seeing McCarthy. He needs to hit on a lot of explosives, I think, to get to the 250, especially at lower volume, and Monangai kind of eating a lot of the work leaves me with the potential downside there.
Definitely. I mean, I can see it too. JJ wasn't afraid to throw some of those deep balls. They just weren't particularly good. So hopefully maybe he can connect on one of those. Again, this was sort of the pushback when I took the under a couple weeks ago against that Lions defense was, they have the weapons, and the thought is still there, is that they have the weapons that they should be able to beat, this Bears defense that is pretty bad in perfect coverage grade is sort of what we talk about a lot. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. And I think, like you guys have said, I'm probably going to be playing a couple variations of this. Definitely trying to play into the hot hand of it potentially being Kyle Munungai, which you would likely be able to get at a better odds at a lower number too. So going to be an interesting one. And boys, that about does it for us this week. We had some great picks. It's a big week of football, some big games. Broncos, KC, can't wait for that one to happen. And of course, for everybody at home, make sure you guys go hit us up, get PFF Plus subscriptions today. Use promo code PFF NFL Show 25 to get 25% off, the best subscription in football. Get you all the data trusted by all 32 NFL teams, and it gets you access to our PFF player prop tool so you can tail all the angles that you want. And, that about does it for us, boys. For Ben Linsey, for Judah Fortgang, for our producers in the back, Ty, Quinn, Eli, I've been Mason Cameron. Until next week, guys, take care.